Hey trumpet nerds, welcome back to John Talks Trumpet. This week we'll be talking about mouthpiece throat size, also sometimes known as the mouthpiece bore. This video will go in depth on the relationship between throat size and the playability and sound of a mouthpiece, as well as what you should consider before getting your throat modified. So what is the throat or bore of a mouthpiece? The mouthpiece throat is the section of the mouthpiece between the cup and the backbore. It is the narrowest part of the mouthpiece. All the air that you blow into the trumpet is funneled through this very small hole. What most people think of as the throat size is specifically the diameter of the throat, which is represented by a drill size. The larger the drill size, the smaller the hole. Here's a chart that shows the correlation between the drill size and the actual throat diameter, measured in thousandths of an inch. However, there are actually two dimensions that describe the throat, not just the diameter, but also the length of the cylindrical section from the bottom of the cup to the top of the backbore flare. We'll come back to this complication in a little bit. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the relationship between the throat size and the sound and playability of the mouthpiece. The first thing is, the larger the throat size, the more air can pass through the mouthpiece at once. So the maximum volume that you can play is actually increased, and your lungs will physically deflate a little bit faster. Bigger mouthpiece throats will also make the softer dynamics a little bit more velvety and transparent sounding compared to a smaller throat mouthpiece. Because of the decreased resistance offered by a mouthpiece with a larger throat, you might actually find yourself getting tired a little bit more quickly, but that effect is more pronounced before you get used to the larger throat. In my personal experience, the most dramatic effect of increasing the throat size is that the sizzle point, or that point where the sound becomes zingy and brilliant, is at a louder dynamic than when you use a smaller mouthpiece throat. Commercial players tend to prefer mouthpieces with smaller throats because it gives them that brilliant sound without having to blow the walls down. This is usually because the microphone is directly in front of their trumpet bell, or they're not playing in a particularly large performance hall. In contrast, symphony orchestra players tend to use slightly larger throats in order to allow them to play louder without having that super edgy sound. This makes it easier for them to blend with the whole brass section. Okay, quickly I'll talk about some common throat sizes for various applications. The stock Bach throat size is a 27, and the stock Schilke throat size is a 26. Orchestral players generally trend towards a 25 or 24 throat size, a bit bigger than stock, with some going a little larger, Mike Sachs uses a 23 throat, or way larger, such as any player that uses a Monet Prana mouthpiece. Cornet and flugelhorn mouthpieces are often far bigger. Throat sizes range between 20 and sometimes as large as 14. Like I mentioned earlier, some brands of mouthpieces have extremely large throats, like the Monet Prana series, which do feature throat sizes as large as a 12. Because of that preference for a sizzly sound, commercial players do tend towards the smaller side of the throat size spectrum. Many using mouthpieces that start at a 27, which is again the stock, or going even smaller, such as 28 or 30. Roger Ingram is well known to use a mouthpiece with a 30 throat, and I think I've heard that Joey Tartell has used one with a 32 throat when he's playing lead. While we're talking about mouthpiece throats, let me tell you why I don't really like to have my throats modified aftermarket. Boring out a mouthpiece throat is the cheapest and most common modification, and it often costs only between $10 and $20. Some people choose to do it themselves, but I do not recommend this. When you bore out a mouthpiece throat, it not only increases the diameter of the throat, but it also increases the throat length and alters not only the throat entrance at the bottom of the cup, but also the beginning taper of the backbore, both of which have very noticeable effects on how a mouthpiece plays. In my experience, the sharper throat shoulder at the bottom of the cup can make the articulations more sprackly, and the longer throat section will increase the blow resistance, which can offset the intended effect of enlarging the throat. These unintentional changes to the design of the mouthpiece can have unfortunate effects on its playability. Instead of altering the throat size of the mouthpiece aftermarket, I recommend buying the mouthpiece with the throat size that you want pre-installed. For example, if you want a 1.5C 25 throat, 24 backbore, instead of ordering a stock 1.5C with the throat and backbore alterations from Mouthpiece Express, Osman, or others, I would try the Bach SYMPHONIC series mouthpieces, which comes with those custom throats built into the overall design, which preserves the throat entrance and shape at the top of the backbore, as well as the throat length. Another example is if you had a Park Orchestral 640 280 26 mouthpiece and wanted to try it at a 24 throat instead, maybe don't get the mouthpiece drilled out to a 24, but instead order or find a 640 280 24 and then compare the two. In my opinion, mouthpiece throat size is one of those important dimensions that tells you how a mouthpiece is going to play. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me on this nerdy trumpet adventure, and hope you will consider liking this video and subscribing so you can follow me on all of the rest of my nerdy adventures. New videos every Tuesday.